Okay, I'm going to try this again because I tried to do Facebook Live this morning in conjunction with Instagram Live, and thankfully one of my viewers, one of my friends told me that my mouth was not moving with my words. So I don't know if that was a streaming issue. I don't know. I really need somebody to help me figure out why that happened. And so, did I not have enough Wi-Fi signal to stream Instagram and Facebook Live at the same time? Because I really want to be able to do Instagram as well. But hi, Miss Marissa. So we're going to try this again. I had an aha this week, and I love ahas, and I think that's why I love reading so much about self-help and self-improvement. And hi, Liz, because I love when my thinking is changed. And so right now I'm in the middle of 3 different books. I don't know. Sometimes sometimes it's, oh, exactly. Thank God it's Friday, Marissa says. But anyways, I've got 3 books right now that I'm reading. I'm rereading The Law of Attraction. Oh, it's Liz's birthday! Happy birthday, Liz! Liz is my mom's very best friend. Okay, and by the way, Liz, this talk today, actually, I'm going to say your name because I was thinking this morning and reviewing my talk, and you actually came to mind because my aha this week actually had to do with something that you told me a while back. And Shelly Girl has just joined. Look, there's Shelly Girl. See? Say hi, Shell. Can you tell everybody hi? Say hi. Shelly Girl is not really missing Georgie Porgy, but Georgie Porgy's going to be much better whenever he returns from discipline school. Okay, so I'm rereading The Law of Attraction because, I've talked about this. Our thoughts create our beliefs, and our beliefs in turn create our actions. And so the law of attraction is basically that everything that you put out is constantly being mirrored back to you. So you wake up and you start having a bad day and one thing goes wrong and then the next thing goes wrong and something else goes wrong. That's the law of attraction at work because whatever you're focused on grows. And so, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts throughout the day. And I actually just read something this morning that on average, 80% of a person's thoughts in one day are negative about themselves or about something that's going on in their lives. And not only that, but 95% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts throughout the day. And so it's really important for us to monitor our thoughts to try to shift to a more positive mindset. Because if you remember in my last video, we're 100% responsible for our lives. Yes, things happen. Sometimes unfair things happen in our life, but we are the ones who get to choose how we're going to deal with that event. And so when we're talking about the law of attraction and we're talking about what is the energy, because the law of attraction is about energy and everything has energy, everything has a vibration. It's just like a radio station. You tune into a certain radio station because of the frequency level, the vibration level. And so everybody has this energy field around them, and you have a vibrational frequency about you. You have vibrational frequencies about your body, about your weight. Oh, I love you too, Miss Angel. Angel's my rock star teacher in Washington, Indiana. She and I are all into this self-help stuff. But anyway, so you're constantly, your thoughts, you're constantly putting those out there. And so not every thought that you have manifests in your life, but whatever you pay the most attention to is what gets mirrored back in your life. So for example, I have this friend and I think he's wonderful, but he only sees his body as being overweight, and that he's just always going to be overweight, and that's nothing's going to change. And that's also the movie that spirals in his head all day long. Hi, Jeff. Troy Zellers is the assistant principal at Washington, and he just sent me a message. I'm super nervous because about 3 weeks ago, he sent me a message and said that he wanted to meet with me in his office, and he's the assistant principal, and I still get really nervous when principals or assistant principals want to meet me, because I go back to like when I was in high school and I got detention one time. So Troy, I've decided I just don't think that's going to work for me next time I'm in Washington. I'm not going to be able to come to your office. But anyway, so we really got to work on watching our thought process. What are you saying to yourself? Like, yes, I look in the mirror too and I see certain flaws, but I have to force myself to focus on the blessings, the great things about my body. So like the other day, let me give you an example. I'm looking in the mirror and I actually see like that little cottage cheese stuff at the top of my legs. And I'm like, how can someone who runs 30 miles a week have freaking cottage cheese at the top of their legs? And okay, so I didn't really like that cottage cheese that I saw, but when I went for a run, I was like just really focused on, you know what? Yes, my body is imperfect. There are areas that can be better, but like this is a kick-ass body that does so much for me in a day's time. And so going back to my friend who focuses a lot on not feeling good about his body, I'm not saying that you can just like start telling yourself, I have the best body in the world, because that's a lie. But what you can do is reframe your thoughts, whether it be about anything in your life. You can reframe your thoughts to a more positive mindset, because your thoughts carry energy and that carries power. And the law of attraction says that, you know, whatever you put out there, whatever you focus on the most grows. And so when you know that, you consciously begin to co-create your life. And so my big aha was this week is I'm also reading this book here, Money, a Love Story, and it's by Kate Northrup. Her mom is Christiane Northrup, and she wrote this amazing book called Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And my husband and I are reading this every night. We have like this little tea time, and we just sit and connect with each other at the end of the day. We just started that a few weeks ago, and it's actually been really nice. And so we are reading this book because I don't know, I had heard about it, but what I really like about this book is what she's saying is that money, we have to think about the stories that we tell ourselves around money. And so like some of us have stories ingrained in us that money is a bad thing, that like you shouldn't want money, you shouldn't want lots of money, and if you do, you're not a spiritual person. Or people who have lots of money are greedy and it was just handed to them. And so you have some people who kind of have that playing in their mind. And then you have others who it's more like they're focused on a lack of money all the time. Like it's the woe is me, I don't have money, I can't pay my bills, I can't buy nice things. You know, kind of playing the victim card. And then you have others who like have money, but they hoard money. Like they're never going to share it. They're never going to give it away. They're never going to order dessert because like they're afraid of not having enough. And what she says is, you know, we all have these stories running in our mind around money. And what kind of turned me on to this was I have a mastermind group of a couple of people who are in the same business as I am, and we meet and we talk. And so one of my friends, Jim Halleck, he and I were having a conversation and talking about like, what are we going to charge for our keynotes, and, you know, how do we make it worth our time, you know. And we both started to talk about how like sometimes we kind of feel guilty a little bit about the fees that we charge. We're always like, oh, I'm getting ready to send this school a bill, or, you know, I charged them this amount of money. And I said, you know what, Jim, there's this book that I think we both need to read. So Jim's reading it too. But, you know, what she's saying in this book, and I want to read exactly how she says it. Let me find it, because I did jot it down. She says that if you can't see your value, regardless, then the world doesn't give you value back, okay? And so what she means by that is like we all have to feel our value as human beings, as friends, as mothers, as fathers, our value when we give a service to someone. And so the universe is constantly mirroring back to us our beliefs. And so if we don't feel like we are of value enough, like we don't ask enough that really is reciprocal of the value of who we are. And so it got me thinking, like, if I am feeling guilty about charging a certain fee, then I'm telling the universe that I'm not worth that. And she even talks about smaller things, like, how you might have a friend who wants to pay for lunch and you're like, no, I've got it, it's on my own. Well, you've just told your friend and the universe that you don't value yourself enough to let someone pay for your lunch. Or it makes me think of like when someone gives you a compliment, like, oh, Kim, I just love that dress. And then I go, oh, I got it on sale. I always wait, hey, why do you have to say that? Like, can you not just look them in the eye and kind of take a deep breath and, say thank you? Like, receive that compliment. When someone wants to open a door for you or do something nice and we kind of poo-poo that away, each time you do that, you're sending the message out that you don't value yourself enough, you don't love yourself enough to receive those offerings, those gifts. And so, I love that, Pat. Pat says, she had a stroke in August and her eyes are getting dimmer at times, and she's trying to kind of see that her brain is healing and that her eyes will heal, and she's putting that out to the universe, even though that's not necessarily true right now. Her eyes aren't perfect. And so what Pat's using is what I call the trickster, because there's not the universe cannot tell a difference between our imagination and real life. And so when you spend time visualizing and imagining something, then you're also sending that signal out to the universe. So I love that, Pat. That's wonderful that you can do that. But I think that, like, for me and this money thing, I think like a little bit in my head, I've kind of like, because I don't know, I do like money. I'm not saying you have to have a lot of money to be happy, but I do like money, and I've kind of felt guilty a little bit about wanting to make a lot of money. And this is like making me rethink, because one, I think that when someone hires me to give a presentation, that I do a kick-ass job and I bring everything of myself to that presentation. And so I think I'm worth the amount of money that I put on that price tag. And so Jim and I were talking about how, we're gonna have to be really careful. Like, we need to name our price and know that we're worth that, and make sure that we're not sending that vibration out that we feel bad or guilty. I mean, I spend hours and hours and hours in this office creating this material. When I leave a conference that I've presented, I've given it my all. And so it's just making me think, like, what are the voices that we have in our head around money? And then not only that, but like, how do we bring abundance into our life? Like, all kinds of abundance. I used to have bad stories in my head around money, because there was a time when we had credit card bills and, didn't know how we were going to put kids through college. And I remember just really focusing on the lack of money. And I think that when I read this book several years ago, it did really change my thought process. And so let me give you a couple examples. When I have to go pay my quarterly taxes, I don't feel like I used to. It's like, oh God, there's those quarterly taxes, and I'm going to pay that again. And I actually go to the post office around Valentine's Day and I buy a whole bunch of heart stamps so that I have enough for the whole year. And every time I send that check into the Internal Revenue Service, I put a heart stamp on it. Why? Because I'm sending them love, because I've made enough money to pay into taxes. That's now how I see that. Whenever we might have medical bills, like I'm not thrilled that this year, for whatever, Spencer had to have a lot of different tests done and MRIs at the hospital. And even after our insurance, I think we ended up out of pocket like $3,000, for extra stuff Spencer needed to have. I'm not thrilled about that, but I can tell you right now, Thank goodness we did have good insurance. Just think what that bill would have been if we hadn't. And not only that, praise the Lord, he's absolutely healthy. And so, you know, it's just shifting your focus to, you've got to decide which perspective do you want to see the world through? Because whatever it is you're going to focus on, that's going to grow. So I'm not saying, maybe you know, a person may be actually struggling right now to pay their bills. But the more they focus on that, or the more that they are like, woe is me, then the more they're bringing into that. So when I go back to when Scott and I just felt like we were living paycheck to paycheck, you know, I think the other thing is, if you want something in your life and you can't afford it right now, then my golly, you need to take action. And that's exactly what we did. Like Scott took on a part-time job. I took on a part-time job because there were certain opportunities that we wanted to provide our family. And so we took the extra steps at that time in order to do that. But I think what this book is really teaching me is it's not really just about money. It's about, how do we place value on ourselves as human beings? And that means also thinking about, I guess, being selfish. You know, women in particular feel afraid to give to themselves. Like, I believe my mom's generation especially, those women like raised their kids and they took care of the home and they did everything for their family. But they didn't really take care of themselves because, you know, in order to win the golden trophy at the end of the week, you needed to have always put your family first. Well, I actually don't think that's a very happy formula. I think that we have a lot of angry, resentful, depressed women now because they didn't know how to give to themselves. And some of them are really wanting to now give to themselves. And so when I think about my own life, you know, when I give to myself, I'm telling the universe that, hey, Kim, I value you. And not only that, that I love you. And so I want you to think about, how much do you give to yourself? Do you value yourself enough to say, you know what, 5 days a week, I'm going to exercise. That's 5 hours away from my family, but I'm worth it. Do you value yourself enough to say, which I have, I'm going to get a massage every other week because I value myself enough to do that for myself, and that is money well spent, I think. Do you value yourself enough to say, I'm going to have lunch with girlfriends once a month, or I'm going to go out to a movie with some friends once a month? Like, we have to start giving to ourselves. And that is not selfish. That's actually a very smart move, because I always believe, like, you know, you can't, even if your cup is full, I don't know that you have anything to give away. I think your cup needs to runneth over. And the way you get your cup to runneth over is you invest in yourself. You give to yourself, whether that be time, exercise, massages, going to the movies, reading a book. I think you need to say, I am worth it and I come first some of the time. And so, but you know, there's this constant kind of struggle that women especially, I think, deal with. For example, I fixed pancakes for Spencer on Wednesday morning. And I was like, oh, and he was really thankful. And he's like, thank you so much. And I was like, yeah, I was a really good mom. I like, you know, got him breakfast because I wasn't around Monday or Tuesday morning. And then yesterday, he and Braden woke up. I'm sorry, let me take that back. It was like 9 o'clock. The boys were still in bed. And I was thinking, oh, they would really like it if I made them homemade donuts. But then I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be up at 11 or 12 or 10. So should I take my run or not? So I thought, I'm going to take my run. And then if they wake up and I don't have donuts for them, that's going to have to be okay. Because like I chose myself yesterday morning. I chose to let myself have a run rather than making sure these kids had homemade donuts. Well, when they brought that up, you said like, oh, we really thought you would make us homemade donuts. I started to feel guilty, right? I'm like, oh gosh, I should have just, you know, kept my run till later. I should have made them homemade donuts. It was a snow day. And then I'm like, like they had to get breakfast for themselves. Does that make me less of a mother? No, it doesn't. And not only that, but like, I think as mothers and fathers, like we have to teach our kids that we value ourselves enough to give to ourselves so that they in turn do the same thing. Now, that being said, guess what Spencer Fest had for breakfast this morning? Homemade donuts, because I still had a tinge of that guilt there. But anyway, I guess just to sum up all of this, I think if you leave here this video with one thing, I want you to leave here considering how to give more to yourself, because that's not going to hurt you or your relationships. When you fill yourself up, oh, thank you, Darla. I won't tell Bray you had donuts this morning. No doubt. Please do not tell him. I felt guilty again. But I want you to start giving to yourself. And that means that you're going to have some guilt, especially us women. We'll have some guilt because it's like we feel like we're supposed to be there for our kids. Oh, you love, okay, Mike, I will make homemade donuts for you when we go to Punta Cana, maybe. I'll probably just serve you some drinks. But anyway, I want us to consider being more selfish, because being selfish is not a bad thing. And I want you to also consider, what are the stories you've told yourself around money? Have you told yourself that it's bad to want nice things? Have you told yourself that you're not worthy of taking time to create your own little side business because that would take away from your family? Have you told yourself that you don't value yourself enough as a person to start treating your body right? You know, these are the things that I think we need to consider, because I believe that when we put that out to the world mirrors that back to us. And so going back to my mom's best friend, Liz, when I was like thinking about all of this on my run this morning, and I remember Liz was telling me, because I was telling her that my favorite chai tea is Oprah's chai tea. But it's very, very expensive. And so like I ordered a packet of it last year, and then I went through it really fast, and then I went up to Walmart and I bought just some regular chai, and it was like not near as good. And so I was telling Liz last year, I remember we were having lunch with my mom and her, and I was like, you know, I just love Oprah chai tea. But I go, it's really expensive. And she immediately said, you need to buy that for yourself. So what if it's expensive? If you like it enough, and then you buy that Oprah chai tea. And it just really stuck out to me this morning, because I thought, you know what? You got to live within your means, right? Like this whole money stuff, I'm not saying like you go out, you have to have all kinds of stuff to be happy. You know, we all have to live within our means. But I can afford Oprah's chai tea, even if it's not on sale. And so that's just a way of me loving myself. And so we have to make those decisions sometimes. We don't need to live with so much guilt, and we don't need to be afraid to value ourselves. And just to tell you one more little quick story, I told Scotty I had to leave the house because I was doing a Facebook Live video, and I don't like him to be around when I'm doing it. And so he's like, well, make sure you say something nice about me. Well, he's probably not going to like this story, but I remember years ago, we had gotten into an argument, and he was like, you know what, Kim, the problem is, oh, he's such my private little person. He's not going to appreciate this at all. But the problem is you always come first. It's you, and then it's Spencer, and then it's the dogs, and then it's your mom and dad, and then finally it's me. And I was like, so I'm sure he said that because he thought like that would make me feel bad, because you know when you're in an argument and you want to hurt one another, and I actually looked at him and I said, you know what, you do have one part of that right. I do come first. Like I learned a long time ago that I need to come first most of the time. And I remember he was like taken back by that, but that is true, because I'm a good mama. whenever I am happy and alive because my cup is filled. I'm a good friend when my cup is filled. I'm a better wife. And I'm more happy and fulfilled whenever I've loved Kim. And so, I don't know, those were just the thoughts that were swirling around. And so I ask you, do you value yourself enough to go after that dream you're after, to dabble with this new business idea, to get yourself in the gym, to consider that even though maybe you've been overweight your whole life, that maybe you're somewhat responsible for that because of these tapes that are constantly playing in your head. And so think about how do you change your mindset so that what you're focusing on are the things that you really want to come into your life. So that's what I have for you today. If you know somebody who could use this message, please share this video. And I also heard that like somehow you can subscribe or you can follow people. So if you want to get that little notification next time I go live, there's a way to do that as well. But I hope everybody has a happy Friday. And I can't wait to read all your comments below. Thank you, Karen. Sunshiny Karen down in Florida, my neighbor that I miss. She's always posting pictures of palm trees and fruity drinks. I'm surprised I even still like her. But anyway, I do love you, Miss Karen. All right, happy Friday. See ya.